Once upon a time, in the bustling heart of a Nigerian city, there lived a young woman named Adaobi. Her life had always been filled with challenges. Orphaned at a young age, she was raised by distant relatives who gave her food, clothing, and shelter. But their home was cold and distant. Her basic needs were met, but she grew up without the warmth of a family, without the loving hugs, gentle words, or shared laughter that every child yearns for. Yet, despite the loneliness that colored her childhood, Adaobi grew up with a resilient spirit and a heart full of hope. She dreamed of creating her own family one day, of having a home filled with love, warmth, and belonging. When Adaobi met Obina, it seemed like her dreams had finally come true. Obina was everything she had ever hoped for in a partner. Kind, ambitious, and strong. He was tall and well-built, his broad shoulders and confident presence a reminder of his strength, both physical and emotional. Obina owned a successful construction company, a business he had built from the ground up with hard work and determination. His success, however, never dimmed his kindness. He was known for his generosity, not only with his friends and family, but with anyone who needed help. For Adaobi, Obina was a gift, a source of security, love, and joy. They married and built a beautiful life together. Their home was a cozy place filled with shared dreams and laughter. Obina's family, at first strangers to Adaobi, welcomed her warmly, treating her like one of their own. Having grown up without a family, Adaobi cherished this sense of belonging. For the first time in her life, she felt she truly belonged somewhere, with people who cared about her and whom she could love in return. Not long after their marriage, Adaobi and Obina were blessed with a beautiful daughter named Emica. From the moment she held Emica in her arms, Adaobi felt a love deeper than anything she had ever known. Emica was a lively child, curious and full of joy, her laughter filling their home with happiness. Adaobi devoted herself entirely to her role as a mother, creating a home that was warm, safe, and filled with love. Obina, deeply proud of his wife and daughter, worked tirelessly to provide for them, making sure they never lacked anything. He enrolled Emica in one of the best schools in the city, determined to give her the best start in life. Together, Adaobi and Obina were building a future for their daughter, filled with hope and possibility. For a time, life was beautiful. Adaobi often found herself pausing to reflect on how lucky she was. She had a husband who adored her, a daughter who filled her heart with pride, and a family who treated her with kindness and respect. It was everything she had ever dreamed of. But life, as it often does, had unexpected turns ahead, and the happiness she had cherished was about to be replaced by unimaginable sorrow. One morning, Obina woke up feeling unwell. At first, he brushed it off as exhaustion from work. He had been putting in long hours at his company, determined to secure a prosperous future for his family. He told Adaobi not to worry, assuring her that he just needed a bit of rest. But as the days went by, his condition only worsened. His once vibrant energy began to fade. His laughter grew rare, and he struggled to keep up with his daily routines. Adaobi became increasingly worried, urging him to go to the hospital. But Obina resisted. He was a strong man, used to handling life's challenges, and he was convinced he would recover soon. However, as his health continued to deteriorate, Adaobi finally managed to persuade him to see a doctor. They went to the hospital together, and the doctors ran several tests, trying to uncover the cause of his illness. Adaobi stayed by his side through it all, her heart filled with a growing sense of dread. Despite her hopes and prayers, the doctors could not find a definitive answer. Obina's condition seemed to worsen with every passing day, and none of the treatments brought any improvement. One evening, as Adaobi sat beside his hospital bed, Obina reached out and took her hand. His face, once strong and full of life, was now pale and weak, but his eyes still held the love and devotion he had always shown her. In a soft, almost fragile voice, he looked at her and said, "Promise me, Adaobi, that you will stay strong. Take care of Chiamaka." His words were like a dagger to her heart, a painful reminder that he might not be with her much longer. Fighting back tears, she nodded, promising him that she would do as he asked. In the days that followed, Obina's condition continued to worsen. Despite all their efforts, despite every prayer and every visit to the doctor, there was nothing that could save him. One quiet afternoon, he took his last breath, leaving Adaobi and Chiamaka alone. The man she had loved, the man who had been her rock and her joy, was gone. Returning to their home after his passing was almost unbearable. Every corner, every piece of furniture, every sound reminded her of him. The laughter they had shared, the plans they had made, the dreams they had built, all now felt like painful memories. Adaobi was heartbroken, struggling to come to terms with the fact that her husband, her partner in life, was gone. She mourned not only for herself, but for Chiamaka, who was too young to understand why her father wasn't coming back. Yet, amid her sorrow, Adaobi found a small measure of comfort in the thought that Obina's family, who had once embraced her so warmly, would be there for her. She had come to think of them as her own family, and she trusted that they would help her through this difficult time. However, she was about to face a new heartbreak, one that would test her strength in ways she had never imagined. In their tradition, Obina's funeral was to be held in his ancestral village. Adaobi traveled there with Chiamaka, determined to honor her husband's memory by observing every custom. She participated in every ritual, hoping that by following tradition she would find comfort and peace. She believed that her husband's family, her family, would stand by her and support her in this time of mourning. But as the funeral ceremonies progressed, Adaobi began to notice a change in the way Obina's family looked at her. Faces that had once been kind and welcoming now seemed cold, distant. She heard whispers among the family members, murmurs that sent a chill down her spine. Soon, these whispers turned into outright accusations. Some members of the family, led by Obina's elder brother, Uche, began to suspect that Adaobi might have had a hand in her husband's death. Uche, who had always harbored a certain resentment toward Obina's success, saw an opportunity to take control of the family's assets. He accused Adaobi of foul play, suggesting that she had somehow caused Obina's death to benefit from his wealth. The accusations stunned Adaobi. She had loved Obina deeply, and the idea of being responsible for his death was not only absurd, but deeply painful. The family's accusations were driven by grief, perhaps envy, and perhaps a desire to reclaim Obina's wealth for themselves. To prove her innocence, the family demanded that Adaobi undergo a series of traditional rituals. She was forced to shave her head, a painful symbol of mourning and, in this case, a public display of shame. She was made to sleep beside Obina's body for 3 nights, a custom meant to cleanse her of any guilt. Finally, they forced her to bathe in the water used to wash her husband's body, insisting that it would purify her of any wrongdoing. Each ritual was a painful ordeal, a cruel and unjust punishment. But Adaobi endured it all, hoping that it would end the family's suspicions. But the family's demands did not stop with these rituals. Uche declared that, as a widow with only a daughter, Adaobi had no right to inherit Obina's property. In their tradition, inheritance passed through male heirs, and since Adaobi had no son, Uche claimed that everything belonged to the family. Devastated and heartbroken, Adaobi watched as they stripped her of everything she and Obina had worked for. They took the keys to her home, her car, and all her possessions, leaving her with nothing. After seizing everything from her, Uche ordered her to leave the family's village home, casting her and her young daughter out with nothing but the clothes they wore, homeless, penniless, and betrayed by the very people she had considered her family. Adaobi was left to face an uncertain future alone with her daughter. With nowhere else to go, Adaobi and Chiamaka returned to the city. They went to the home that had once been theirs, only to find that Uche had already taken control, changing the locks and barring them from entering. Realizing that they truly had nowhere to go, Adaobi was left with no choice but to live on the streets. Desperate to provide for her daughter, Adaobi set up a small fruit stand by the roadside. Each day, she sold what little fruit she could afford to buy, struggling to make enough money to feed Chiamaka and herself. The income was meager, barely enough to cover their daily meals, and there were many nights when they went to bed hungry. Chiamaka, who had once attended one of the best schools in the city, now spent her days helping her mother at the fruit stand. The once bright and carefree little girl now had a quiet sadness in her eyes. Adaobi could see the toll that this new life was taking on her daughter, and it broke her heart. Nights on the street were the hardest. Without a roof over their heads, Adaobi and Chiamaka often slept in doorways or under makeshift covers. They huddled together for warmth, trying to find comfort in each other's presence. When it rained, they would do their best to stay dry, but the cold and dampness would seep into their bones, making sleep impossible. Adaobi's heart ached for Chiamaka, for the childhood she had lost, and the suffering she endured without complaint. Each day was a struggle for survival, but Adaobi held on, driven by her love for her daughter and the promise she had made to Obina to stay strong. Despite the hardships, Adaobi refused to give up. She drew strength from within, determined to create a better life for Chiamaka, even if it seemed impossible. Her love for her daughter kept her going, and each day she woke up with a glimmer of hope, clinging to the belief that one day things would get better. But as the weeks turned into months, that hope grew harder to hold on to, and Adaobi wondered if they would ever escape the harsh life they now lived. One day, as Adaobi was selling fruit on the roadside, a familiar face appeared in the crowd. It was Emica, an old friend of Obina's. Emica and Obina had been close friends, and Emica respected Obina deeply. When he saw Adaobi on the street, selling fruit in such worn-out clothes, he was shocked and heartbroken. He approached her, concern evident in his eyes. At first, Adaobi hesitated to speak to him. She felt ashamed of her circumstances and didn't want to reveal the depths of her suffering. But Emica's gentle encouragement made her feel safe, and eventually, she opened up. She told him everything: the sudden illness and death of Obina, the cruel betrayal by his family, and the daily struggle she now faced to provide for Chiamaka. Emica listened with empathy and sorrow. He could hardly believe the extent of the hardships Adaobi had endured. Moved by her story and by his loyalty to Obina's memory, Emica offered Adaobi and Chiamaka a place to stay. He arranged for them to live in a small, modest house that was safe and comfortable. For the first time in months, Adaobi felt a glimmer of hope. She and Chiamaka finally had a roof over their heads, a bed to sleep in, and a chance to start a new life. Emica's kindness did not stop there. He also made sure that Chiamaka could return to school. Seeing her daughter in a school uniform again, walking through the school gates, filled Adaobi's heart with joy. It was as though a weight had been lifted, and she felt gratitude deeper than words could express. Emica encouraged Adaobi to find a way to support herself, suggesting that she develop a skill that would give her independence. Adaobi had always loved cooking and baking, a passion she had discovered when creating treats for her family. Emica saw potential in this talent and suggested that she consider learning baking professionally. With his encouragement, Adaobi enrolled in a baking class, eager to learn a skill that could help her rebuild her life. Adaobi threw herself into her baking training with determination and passion. She learned the techniques of baking bread, cakes, and pastries, each lesson a step toward a new life. Baking became more than just a skill. It became a form of healing. Every loaf of bread she baked, every pastry she created, was filled with the hope she had found within herself, the strength to move forward, and the love she held for her daughter. When she completed her training, Adeobi began baking from home, selling her treats to neighbors and friends. Word spread quickly about her delicious creations, and soon she had a steady stream of customers. Emica, who had been her steadfast supporter, helped her set up a small bakery. She named it Ada's Delights, a modest shop with a simple, hand-painted sign, but for Adeobi, it was a symbol of resilience and rebirth. The bakery soon became a beloved part of the community. Customers came not just for the baked goods, but for the warmth and kindness Adeobi brought to her business. Each day, Adeobi opened the doors to her bakery with gratitude, welcoming people with a smile. She found joy in her work, pride in her accomplishments, and a renewed sense of purpose. Her bakery was more than just a place of business. It was a place of healing and growth. Chiamaka, proud of her mother, often joined Adeobi at the bakery after school, helping her arrange pastries or greet customers. Their bond grew even stronger as they worked side by side, building a life that was theirs alone. The struggle they had endured together only made them more resilient, more grateful for the simple joys they now shared. As Ada's Delights grew in popularity, Adeobi began hiring other women from the community, especially those who had faced hardships. She taught them the skills they needed, providing them with jobs and a supportive environment. Her bakery became known not only for its delicious treats, but also as a place of empowerment. A place where women could find a second chance, just as she had. With her growing success, Adeobi was able to expand her business. She moved the bakery into a larger space, added more items to her menu, and continued to pour her heart into every baked good she made. Her reputation spread throughout the city, and customers came from far and wide to visit Ada's Delights. Adeobi was not only a successful businesswoman, but also a respected member of the community, admired for her resilience, kindness, and strength. Chiamaka thrived in school, inspired by her mother's example. She watched her mother build a life from the ground up, and it taught her the value of hard work, resilience, and compassion. Adeobi knew that she was creating a legacy not only for herself, but for her daughter. She had built something lasting, something that would continue long after her. As Adeobi's bakery continued to flourish, news of her success reached her in-laws. Uche, who had taken control of Obina's company and assets, was now struggling. Without Obina's guidance, the business had declined, and Uche's poor management had only worsened the situation. The wealth he had taken from Adeobi was gone, squandered by his own greed and lack of foresight. Facing financial ruin, Uche and other family members found themselves with nowhere else to turn. Humbled and desperate, Uche and some relatives went to Adeobi's bakery to seek her forgiveness. They were astounded by what they saw. The woman they had cast out with nothing was now a successful entrepreneur, respected by her community and admired for her compassion. Uche approached her, remorse evident in his face, and asked for a chance to make amends. Adeobi listened to his apology, her heart a mixture of emotions. She remembered the pain, the betrayal, the nights spent on the street with Chiamaka. But as she looked at Uche, she saw someone who was truly regretful, who had learned the consequences of his actions. She decided to forgive him, not because he deserved it, but because she knew that holding on to resentment would only hurt her. Forgiveness was a gift she gave herself, a way to free her heart from the burden of bitterness. However, Adeobi's forgiveness came with boundaries. Instead of giving them money or power, she offered Uche a modest job in her bakery. It was a chance for him to earn an honest living and understand the value of hard work. She extended the same opportunity to other family members, offering them employment but no control over her life or her business. She had built her life anew, and she intended to protect it. Through Adeobi's kindness and strength, her in-laws learned humility and gratitude. They worked in her bakery, witnessing the hard work and resilience that had built it. They saw firsthand the woman they had underestimated and the power of compassion. Adeobi's decision to forgive, yet maintain her independence, showed her wisdom and growth. She had transformed from a woman once wronged to a woman who had taken control of her life. Adeobi's bakery continued to thrive, expanding into a well-known brand with multiple locations across the city. Her story became an inspiration to many, especially to women who saw in her journey a testament to the strength, resilience, and compassion of the human spirit. She was more than a businesswoman. She was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, one could rise above adversity. Through her success, Adeobi used her resources to support other women who had faced similar struggles. She created programs to provide them with skills, jobs, and the tools to build better lives. Her bakery became a place of healing, a place where people found not only delicious treats, but also kindness, acceptance, and empowerment. Emica, inspired by her mother's journey, excelled in her studies and dreamed of one day taking over the bakery. The bond between mother and daughter was unbreakable, forged in the fires of hardship and resilience. They were more than family, they were partners, united by love and the legacy they were building together. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Adeobi stood outside her bakery, watching the last customers of the day leave with smiles on their faces, carrying bags filled with her baked treats. The soft glow of the evening sun bathed her in warm light, and she took a deep breath, feeling a profound sense of peace. She had faced unimaginable hardships, yet here she was, standing strong, with a life full of purpose and a heart full of gratitude. Adeobi looked at Emica, now a young woman with her own dreams and ambitions. She saw in her daughter the same strength and kindness that had carried them through their darkest days. Emica was not only her pride and joy, she was the legacy Adeobi had fought so hard to build. Together, they had created something lasting, something that would continue to grow and touch lives long into the future. Adeobi's journey from loss to triumph was a story known throughout the community. It reminded people of the power of resilience, of the strength that lies within every person, waiting to be called upon in times of need. Her life was a testament to the fact that, no matter how broken one might feel, there is always a way to rise, rebuild, and find joy again. Her bakery, Ada's Delights, became a place of warmth and welcome, a beacon of hope for anyone who walked through its doors. People came not only for the treats, but for the inspiration Adeobi's story provided, a reminder that with love, self-worth, and an unbreakable spirit, even the greatest struggles can lead to beautiful new beginnings. As she closed the bakery doors that night, Adeobi reflected on everything she had learned. She understood now that her true strength had always been within her. She had learned to love herself, to see her own worth, and to trust in her abilities. This self-love and self-worth were what had carried her through the hardships, what had given her the courage to forgive and the wisdom to build her life on her own terms. She knew that her story was not only about survival, but about the power of loving oneself enough to demand respect, to choose happiness, and to build a life that honored her deepest values. And so, with peace in her heart, and gratitude for the journey she had taken, Adeobi turned off the lights and walked home with Emica by her side, ready for whatever lay ahead. Adeobi's journey teaches us all that no matter what challenges we face, there is an inner strength within us to guide us through and help us rebuild. Even in our darkest moments, We have the power to rise, to choose kindness, and to create a life filled with purpose and love. If Adaobi's story has inspired you, please I beg for your support by subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing this video. Let's spread her message of strength and self-worth so it can encourage others who might be facing their own battles. Thank you for watching. See you next time.